Greetings. Welcome to Ross Reports, the headline. So on the news the other day, they had a little excerpt about compassion. And they had a few individuals that talked about their understanding of compassion. And of course, I listened to it and with a high degree of skepticism, because of course man, see, even things that man was not naturally built to understand, he has this kind of desire, this overwhelming desire to see everything, from a God-like perspective. Meanwhile, the people have suffered around the world because man has denied human existence in the event of pursuing his own misunderstandings. So this idea of compassion, they want to look at it from a biological standpoint. And the one man says it's okay to want to be seen giving to people, to want to be seen praying in the open square, and it can still be considered compassion if you outwardly look for that recognition. In other words, people look at it and say, I better do this now, I better be compassionate, and I'll be rewarded down the road. Now that's an interesting thought, because of course, in our doings, we look for reward from our Creator. But much of our reward comes from the idea of sacrifice, not so much as giving, although giving is a big part of it. To refrain from sin is the pleasure of the Lord. So they have this term, reciprocal altruism. Compassion leads to do good things to people who may return favors. It's a non-conscious, in the back of your mind, you're doing it because you think, you'll get something out of people. Well, let's be realistic here. The person that's speaking about this is not doing something and in the back of his mind, subconsciously unaware of it. I would venture to say that person's well aware of what they're doing and what they're looking for based on his personal testimony. Define deserving people in self-serving way. Example, tribalistic. So they're saying, well, people tend to be compassionate just towards certain clans, towards certain groups that they have a relative common ground with. Well, that's not compassion, is it? The idea of compassion was to be there for your enemy when your enemy was in need. That was the original compassion. To be there for the one that was in need, regardless of what they stood for. Tech has made our fate more intertwined, and we are designed to be more nicer to people. Well, I don't see a lot of people on YouTube nice. I'm probably not one of the nicest people. Although, if a person is deserving of my kindness, I would certainly give that to them. We have excluded a lot of people with our technology. The ruling classes have the best technology. They can do the speed trading and, fly around the world, do all these things that people can't do. They're not able to. So, let's pretend that, you have the dial-up internet service and the other guy has the high speed. Well, you guys have a project. You have to accomplish a goal. And you have to do quite a bit of research on the internet to do so. Well, who do you think's going to get ahead? High-speed trading. But is that person necessarily a better person? No, but they've been given that technology that's enabled them to get ahead. So technology has not been designed for people to be intertwined and to unite, so to speak. It really was designed so that the ruling classes could monitor everybody in the world and their resources. Man seems to think that this is his creation. He makes it what he will. And God will just go along with it, right? He tells God what to do. Hey God, do this today, do that today. You know, I got a Mercedes now. He better be listening to me. I'm leaning, right? So another person, this lady, she spent some time in Jerusalem. She says that she can get a buzz from saying something horrible to somebody, like, you know, after you have it. She says after you get a drink, it's like it's like having a drink at a party. You know, the buzz that she gets from saying horrible things to people. So she wrote a book on 12 steps of compassion, and she said she often has dark thoughts of people. So I won't get into much of what she said, because based on her introduction, I was a little bit taken back. Then there was Dan Golden. He's a shrink. Dan made the most sense, actually. I actually have to agree with the shrink on this one. He said he spent a career thinking about empathy, and he gives to panhandlers everywhere. And Dan, you know, he looked at it from a realistic standpoint. He said, you know, this is something that makes me feel good. Now, that's an honest truth. You know, he gave to somebody and he felt good because of it. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not selfish. You're not looking out for your interest, because you weren't thinking about giving to that person until you saw that person. Then you gave to them. Then you felt good. You weren't looking for that feeling good feeling. At least, I don't know. I mean, I'm just speaking for myself. You just knew what you had to do. What your master was telling you that was needed to be done at that point. And you did it. And you felt good. So he said what it invokes in us. He gave the example about the Good Samaritan, the man that was groaning, and the students that went from one building to another. And even though some students had learned about the Good Samaritan, half the students, they overpassed the man because they were at a time crunch. It was really the time factor that was decisive in whether they stopped and helped the beggar or not. It's a good example to understand, because it shows us, you know, in our life today, where we're always chasing that plastic carrot around, we don't have time for anybody, and that's how it's designed.